What do you need? Okay. So, love and wisdom. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? I was thinking 12 powers are about my very favorite thing to talk about. Been doing it for 30 years. So every time it's a little different. And last week we kind of introduced 12 powers, and they're basically 12 qualities of being, 12 faculties that we all have. They're not outside of us, they're part of the package, part of the divine package that we all got. Last week, we looked at the power of faith, and we saw there can be different levels of our faith that we move kind of, sometimes we're feeling very connected and very sure that we're part of this field of oneness and grace, that we're divine beings having a human experience, and other times we kind of dip down into a little bit of unbelief, and we were reminded of our friend Peter walking on water, and then he looked down and went, whoops, I'm walking on water, I shouldn't be doing this, and what happened? He sank. So just being mindful that faith is one of those very powerful key powers. Charles Fillmore actually refers to faith as the master power. Today, though, we're going to be looking at the powers of love and wisdom. And Jesus called these powers based on two of his disciples. You know, each of the disciples were fishermen, and Jesus called them forth, and they became aspects of our being in terms of the metaphysics that each one represented. So in this case, love was represented by John, and wisdom was represented by his brother James. And Sons of Thunder is kind of an interesting thing. You're going to laugh when you see the rest of my slides, because this is it's kind of stark in terms of the thunder. But what you want to understand is when Jesus referred to these two brothers as sons of thunder, it was because they were going into the home of some Samaritans, and the people in the home did not want to let them in. And so the two brothers, James and John, turned to Jesus and said, we'll just bring down fire and burn their house down. And Jesus was like, no, these two are the sons of thunder. They're like gonna do it. They're vibrationally extremely active and very powerful. So thinking about thunder is like it's stirring things up. That's how I'd like you to kind of understand what we're going to be talking today when we look at the powers of love and wisdom. There's a thunder inside you that is very, very active, and it includes these two powers of love and wisdom. I like to think of them as the unifying powers, and we heard Carmen shared from the unity teaching. We always hear about love as this harmonizing power. It's the power that connects us to everyone. Often some will say love is the master power. But what I want to kind of share with you today is I've been exploring love and wisdom in these sons of thunder. I've been really beginning to understand how deeply connected the powers of love and wisdom are in terms of our own spiritual growth, and how powerful they are when we can begin to work with them together as we move forward, not only in our spiritual life, but also in our very practical life, in our relationships and the work that we do in our health in the physical body. One of the things that is so wonderful about the work of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and the whole work of unity is it's not just up here. It's not just about our spiritual journey. It's not just about our thinking. It very much is about our physical body as well. And Charles Fillmore, he recognized that each of these 12 powers have actual seat in the physical body. And these two powers have very, very significant place in our physical body. And that's part of what makes them thunder for us. And so I want you to understand this, not from a need to malpractice, be a malpracticing metaphysician, because sometimes we can go that route and blame and shame and make people feel guilty or feel guilty ourselves because we have physical issues, but rather just as an awareness for us to take a look at. So I've given you this sheet in your bulletin, and I'm giving it to you with the hope that you will take it home, and after today's talk, you will actually consider this movement or development of love and wisdom in your own life. So we're going to be looking at some of this, and just to give you, the book is down there, but this is coming from a Unity teacher named Winifred Hausmann. And she's not one of the teachers that we've all heard. You know, we know of Emily Cady, we know May Rowland, we know some of the other Unity teachers. She actually died at age 90 in 2012, so she's not, you know, that far back as in terms of being with Charles and Myrtle. But she wrote a book called Your God-Given Potential. And for each of the 12 powers, she helps us understand the development of each of these powers. Because while I said, yes, you have love, you have wisdom, you have faith, you have spiritual understanding, you have the power of zeal, you have all these powers in you, but we don't just like come full-blown, completely developed in each of the powers. And what she's given us and what I've given you in these sheets is kind of the flow of how we can move forward in our development of the power of love and the power of wisdom. And that's what I'd like to look at today, because I think it's really relevant not only to understand each one of them in their own lane, but also to begin to see the relationship between love and what we love and how we love, how we develop our spiritual power of love, and also how we develop the power of wisdom. And right before the talk today, Harker was asking me, you know, what about discernment? Where's discernment? Discernment is part of this quality of wisdom, spiritual discernment, judging by right judgment. Remember, we've heard that from the Bible. So how the quality of spiritual discernment, spiritual wisdom, spiritual judgment, right judgment, impacts and interacts with the unifying power of love is something I'd like to explore, and I really want to invite you to explore it in your own life this week, and maybe even today. So can we have the first slide that I have? Oh. So just giving you an image, when Jesus did some very significant things, this was very significant. When he was raised up into and became essentially a beam of light, the disciples that he took with him were these three: Peter, James, and John. The three: faith, love, and wisdom. He took them with him, and he went up to the mountaintop, and there he met Moses and Elijah, and that's when he went up into this field of light energy. It was after he'd been identified by Peter as the Christ. So it's a very powerful kind of awareness of how important he identified these three faculties, or these three disciples. I think I have another picture there too, of Jairus. When he went to raise this man's daughter from the dead, Jairus' daughter, again, Peter, James, and John. Faith, love, and wisdom. Very, very key powers for all of us in terms of what we're doing in our life. So next one, because this is where I want. Okay. So you will see in the list that I gave you, all these things that are on the right are part of this development of the faculty of love. But I want to really emphasize the physicality of this, because it's really important for us to understand, especially when we think about Jesus calling them the sons of thunder, this sort of vibrational energy. One of the things we often say in Unity is thoughts are things. And we talk about this idea that what we think about comes about. But when we're living our life, we don't go from thought to action. We move into a vibratory field that creates our feeling and our emotional field. Our thoughts create our emotions. And that's an important thing for us to be aware of. And whenever Charles Fillmore was talking about the power of our consciousness, he was not limiting to just the thinking, more conscious power where we could say an affirmation and be done with it. He was talking about not only the thought, but the emotion that is being carried behind that thought. And for some of us, we don't know what we're thinking, but we know what we're feeling, right? You know, we're feeling angry, so we could trace that anger back to a thought we're having. We're feeling sad. We could trace that back if we wanted to, because a lot of times we're not as clear and conscious about what's the lead thought that's bringing in that field of energy, that vibratory emotional field. So the quality here, when we're looking at the power of love, we're dealing with a particular part of the physical body. The cardiac plexus. Plexus basically is like this network. Behind the heart, there's a whole network of nerves. And the nerves behind the heart are part of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, you know, we have I'm not going to go into too much medical stuff here, but I just want to tune us into this. We have two different nervous system qualities. One, the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight. You know, something happens to us and we go into fight or flight. The limbic system gets active, and what happens? We react, right? We just it just happens. That's the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest. When we're sitting quietly, when we're meditating, we're in the rest and digest. We're in the parasympathetic nervous system. And this particular part of the nervous system, the cardiac plexus, is keyed into that rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system. So how that system is activated is an important thing. Are we in rest and digest, or have we kind of hijacked all that more calm energy from the physical body by going into fight or flight? So be aware of this. It's right behind the heart is this area of love. And it impacts both the heart and the lungs. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, I'm just going to go through these because we're going to do love first and then wisdom, and then I'm going to talk about how we can combine them. Give me the next slide. Great. So when Hausmann is talking about this development of the quality of love, think about this in your own life. And it could be thinking about it with a relationship with a person. It could be thinking about something that you want to create in the world, something you like to do. And I can send you the slide, Julia. You don't need to take a picture. The first one is that to love something, you have to have interest in it, right? You have to think, oh, this is kind of interesting. I want to know more about it. And it's always about wanting to know more about God, about the divine, about the world that we live in that is the nature and the fulfillment of the divine. So when we say we love something, we're looking for the good in it, we're looking for the divine in it. That's the first quality is interest. We have to have interest. The next one is we have to be acquainted. Seek out God and all persons. We have to go out and actually do something with it. You know, if you think you want to have a new friend, you can think about it all day long, but if you don't go out and do something about it, kind of get to know the person. You know, I'm in an exercise group, and there's like 50 women in the group. And every once in a while, I'll just I see someone, I think, she looks really interesting. It's taken me almost a year before I went up to the lady last week and said, would you like to have coffee? I mean, it's a long way from up here at OneNet, right? But at least I moved beyond just being interested. It was like taking a little bit of action, getting acquainted. The next thing is this idea of having a feeling toward whatever it is. a feeling of affection. And finally, the next piece is attraction. Think about the law of attraction, how we all thought, oh, you're just going to think about it and it's going to come to you. It was kind of missing a few of the pieces here, wasn't it? It was missing some of these pieces of having an interest in this connection to the divine, getting to know more about it, moving into a place of really feeling good about something. And then you're going to start to attract. The next thing is to actually love, let God's love flow through me every moment of every day. We're moving up into a flow where there's a give and receive in there. It's not just I'm looking for something. I'm trying to co-create something. Identification, I look with God, where we're really being the field of love. And finally, there's this sense of at one-ness. I'm one with God and God's perfect love. So as Fillmore says, God is the great harmonizing principle. When we're focusing on developing this quality of love, whether it's to heal a relationship that we have that doesn't feel quite right, to do something in our work, we can look and see kind of where am I on this flow in this development of love, because we're not necessarily going to just be at number 6 right away. Can we have the next slide? We're going to move. This is the next piece, which is the awareness of wisdom. And just like love, wisdom sits in the body, right at the pit of the stomach. And behind the pit of the stomach, there's a whole plexus of nerves. We know it as the solar plexus. And it's because it fans out like the rays of the sun. That's why they call it the solar plexus. It's that sense of inner knowing where you just kind of know it in the pit of the stomach. Again, this aspect in the physical body is part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So the area of the heart and the area around the stomach are both regulating energetically the rest and digest part of our system. The more we can be tuned in and aware of how energy moves in our love and wisdom field and how we really focus our attention on love and wisdom, the more we're regulating health in the physical body. So this is a really interesting one, I think, because Hausmann has a way of looking at wisdom. And when I was looking at this myself, I was thinking how often, her first thing is unlearning. To be wise, you have to unlearn all the things from the past that weren't true. And it made me realize so much of what wisdom is, it's the opposite of our instantaneous knee-jerk judgment. We judge something right away, we put it in a box, we create a category around it. And once we do that, we literally have blocked spiritual wisdom from moving through us. So what she says is we have to joyously release false concepts of the past, which would be, judgments and opinions that we have about a person because they did this 10 years ago. We're not talking to them anymore, right? Because that's what happened, and we know who they are, and that's how it is. We also have to conscientiously learn the truth about the situation and about the divine presence within us. And she talks about how these two have to happen kind of simultaneously. We have to be willing to review what wasn't true about the past and see what is true about the present moment, always in the context of the divine presence within each one of us and our connection to all life. So think about this in terms of creating loving relationships. I have a person in my life who is so upset because she's convinced that her daughter doesn't love her. And it's because her daughter told her some things that she did when, she was a bad mom. 30 years ago, she was a bad mom, and so now she's convinced her daughter will never love her. And I thought, I need to help her with this, because we can get caught up in things people say or things that we did. We can get caught up in our own guilt or our own regret. instead of unlearning all that and relearning the truth of who we are and who another person is. Even if we haven't talked to them, we can still know that truth and begin the process of love, of having a sense of, who is this? Have an interest in them, be attracted, use that power of love to recreate that relationship. So the power of wisdom, beyond the learning and unlearning, we have to acknowledge that there are new possibilities on the field. This could be in a relationship, it could be, maybe you're trying to create a business, and you had a failure in the past. But you have to be willing to let that go, to be open to what the possibilities and see what's possible in the present moment. Then use our reason. I enthusiastically expand my knowledge of the basic principles of truth, that we are one, that we all carry these powers, not just me, but each one of us. And then I move past, I move past appearances to the truth, the insight, that we have this insight. And finally, wisdom. Through the light of the Christ in me, I know the truth, and I am one with the all-knowing mind of God. How many times have you had an experience where you knew that you wanted to create something, and you tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and it just didn't happen? Just that efforting, and it didn't happen. Am I the only one who does stuff like that? Yeah. What we need to do is we need to relax back. We need to relax back. And this is where the combination of love and wisdom together are so powerful. Hausmann has this thing, she calls it the 4-point formula. And I think I have it maybe on the next slide. Well, this wisdom, we did all this on wisdom. So one more slide. So just looking at this, you can see how when we activate the golden energy in the solar plexus and the heart energy together, when we activate both of them, it literally activates so many of the nervous system, the channels of nerve. In India, we'd call them the nadis. But it's activating so many aspects of the body. So it's really powerful to combine the two as part of the sympathetic nervous system. Let's look at the next slide that I made. So I love this movement that she gave. She calls it her 4-part formula. She says when you love something, so you could love an idea, you could love a person, or you could just love in general, we just feel that sense of love. And you believe that the answer is available to you. So faith is right there, right? You're loving something, you want to create something, you want to feel connected to someone, and you believe that it's possible. When you desire what is right and good for all concerned, the highest and best for everyone, and you stop being in a hurry. You refuse to be in a hurry. So that whole energy of pushing, it's got to happen on my time. The inner spirit of wisdom will reveal to you whatever you need to know. So I think that's it's a beautiful combination of the power of love, because everything starts with that power. That's the unifying power that we have that connects us to everything in life, whether it's personal connections or whether it's what we're called to be and to do in the world. We get a spark that we're interested in it, and then it starts to happen. Like, I'm just looking at Julia. She loves art. She's an art teacher, She loves art, she loves kids, she loves to give her gift in that way. I mean, that's how we develop who we are. That's how we develop our gifts. And the quality of love and wisdom is basic to all of that for all of us. I was thinking as I was driving, I've been in a lot of different spiritual groups over the years, and a lot of them related to my work with India and teaching and doing meditation groups. And I remember I was in one group of women for a number of years, and there was one woman in the group, and we would always meditate first, and then everyone would have a chance to share what was going on. And this one woman in the group, every single week, all she did was complain about her boss, what a terrible boss he was. I mean, this went on for years, complained about this boss. And it was kind of like, well, maybe you need a different job. But there was always a reason why she couldn't get another job, but she hated the boss. And I hadn't seen her for a couple of years, because this was a long time ago. And I heard that she was in the hospital. She had total artery block, and she's not an older person at all. I mean, I think nobody's old unless they're like 100, but but it was like that kind of energy of disliking someone, complaining about someone. It blocks the energy and the flow, because when you're in that state, you're not in the rest and digest state at all. You're in that reactive state. You're in sympathetic nervous system. You're in limbic system, and you're not causing the body to allow the relaxation and the flow and the nervous system to operate as it's supposed to operate. And it's all connected for us. So I realized, and I talked to her recently, and it was so wonderful to hear her tell me how she has a new boss, same job, new boss that she loves, after having open heart surgery. And I would never give her this lesson because she didn't ask for it. But it's a beautiful thing to be aware of for us. Just in our own life, we can kind of tune into how we're feeling in the physical body. So also, I think anytime we're in a transition in our life, I think it's important for us to be willing to acknowledge with the power of wisdom that there are new ideas that are on the horizon, new things coming our way, to be willing to see what that might be, and then to allow and be open to any insights that might come for us. So what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to go through a short meditation with you. And just going to invite you to maybe pick something in your own life that you could focus on as we go through some of these qualities. We won't go through all of them, clearly. So just start out and gently close your eyes. Let your body settle in. And take a nice deep breath in and out. Just breathe in a deep sense of connection and peace. And release as you exhale any tension in the physical body. And now bring to mind a situation in your life, maybe something that feels unresolved. Could be something that feels a little uncertain, or even there's a tenderness to it. Could be part in a relationship or something to do with a move that you need to make, or something to do with health. Could be a decision that you have to make. Maybe a conversation that you'd like to have with someone. Or maybe it's just a quiet question that you have about something in your life. And as you hold that awareness of whatever that particular situation is, bring your attention to the space behind your heart. Just feel that space behind the heart, a place of divine love. Just let that place and the space grow and expand. Maybe feel a little warmth behind the heart. And gently affirm inwardly, I let God's love flow through every moment of every day. I let God's love flow through every moment of every day. held in a field of love. You are safe in this field of love. And now gently just shift your awareness to your solar plexus, the space that's just above your stomach. This is the seat of your inner knowing, your divine wisdom. And gently, inwardly whisper through the light of the divine Christ in me. I know the truth. I am one with the all-knowing mind and heart of God. And let divine wisdom gently rise like a light from within. No need to force it, just allow divine wisdom. And perhaps some clarity arises, or simply a softening, a sense of being heard, a knowing that in time your next step will be revealed. And now return your focus to the heart center. And inwardly repeat, I look with God's eyes of love. I look ahead with God's eyes of love. And I choose with wisdom. I act with love. And taking a deep breath, begin to bring your awareness back into your body. Come back into this room. Maybe wiggle your fingers and toes. Feel that breath in the body. And when you feel ready, you could gently open your eyes.